Joining us now, though, Sidney Powell. She's not live in D.C. like we had hoped in my studio there. She's in D.C. and I'm in Portsmouth, Virginia. Sorry, Sidney. I want to see you and catch up and everything, but we'll definitely do it the next time.
Sounds like a plan.
Sidney, we got a lot to talk about here in the John Fredericks Radio Network today. We've been talking about the Jamal Khashoggi thing most of the day, but now I want to shift gears and talk about what is going on in the Department of Justice now. Now, Rand Paul, we just had him on, and he said that he now finds out that the surveillance people are surveilling the president's phone calls. What the heck is going on here?
I think they've been doing that for a long time. I think the only thing new about it is any sort of admission of it. But yes, the NSA collects absolutely everything on everybody, I think. I don't think there's really anything that's private anymore. It's ridiculous.
Sidney, you're the author of the great book, License to Lie. You can buy that now in bookstores. You can get it online, or you can go to licensetolie.com. It's also now in paperback. You want to get that. This is a must-read for everybody. Lay out now your case as it relates to the Department of Justice on this whole thing. Lay it out for us.
Oh, goodness. Well, we need to go back. The earliest indication we had of a problem was a declassified, but although heavily redacted, decision of the FISA court. It's been in the public domain, at least to the extent it's unredacted, for probably a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And it makes clear that the FBI, as early as 2015, was giving unlimited access to the raw intel of the National Security Agency database, the FISA database. That's what the senators were calling it yesterday in a hearing. I think it's actually the NSA's database. But anyway, they were giving access to all that raw data to 3 private contractors, and they were not supervising it. It was completely illegal access. The FISA court mentions that there were serious Fourth Amendment violations along with it, and it mentions in a footnote that it was deliberate because there was a memorandum of understanding that was signed by FBI lawyers. I would assume that's James Baker and maybe somebody else in his office as general counsel then too. But it was Comey's FBI, and they gave these private contractors complete access to whatever raw FISA and NSA data they wanted on anybody that they've ever collected it on. Mm-hmm. So my suspicion, intelligent suspicion, is that it was probably used by Fusion GPS and Nellie Orr, and that's part of how the Steele dossier was concocted. Mm-hmm. So then the next thing we know that we have, of course, is in 2016, Nellie Orr and Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele and all of that starting to work together with DOJ and FBI to create the Steele dossier and then turn it into applications for FISA warrants to spy on Carter Page.
Right.
And they had to do that to cover up what they'd already done and to be able to use any of it in the legal system. So it was essentially providing back cover for the illegal mess that they had already done. So then we have all of the FISA applications that we still haven't seen completely unredacted, but we know that the Steele dossier, which was made from whole cloth and just completely fabricated, was used by the FBI and the Department of Justice. We don't know all the lawyers involved because those names were still redacted. We know that Comey and McCabe signed a total of 4 of them. McCabe, I think, signed the last 1 or 2. Comey signed 2 or 3. And then for the DOJ, Sally Yates and Dana Boente and Rod Rosenstein. Rosenstein and Boente are both still in the department because, of course, Rosenstein's deputy attorney general and running the whole Russia investigation. Supposedly he supervises Mueller, although, frankly, I think it's the other way around. And then Dana Boente moved from being acting attorney general to general counsel for the FBI.
Right.
And that kind of went under the radar. Nobody seems to have really noticed that except me and a few other people maybe. So we still have two of the people that signed the FISA crap in there. And, of course, Christopher Wray is now heading DOJ, but Dana Boente is his senior counsel. And we just got rid of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce Orr is still in the Department of Justice, even though he was running an illegal back channel between Christopher Steele, DOJ, the FBI, et cetera, after the FBI told the FISA court it had fired Christopher Steele and was no longer using him as an informant. So we have all sorts of federal crimes in the mix there that so far we can't tell anybody's doing anything about, with the possible exception of McCabe's lies to his own investigators in the office of the inspector general, because that was referred out for a criminal referral, and supposedly there's a grand jury in D.C. working on that.
This thing is a mess, right? And these people,
huge mess.
Huge.
I didn't even begin to throw out all the names because I didn't want to confuse everybody, but there are at least 20, 25 people probably heavily involved in this.
Heavily involved in what appears to be a coordinated effort by senior officials at the United States Department of Justice to undermine a presidential campaign. True or false?
True.
True.
And the FBI and Fusion GPS and probably some at the State Department and probably also Brennan and Clapper. Working together
to bring governmental resources and legal systems to bear and weigh in on the election of a president in favor of Hillary Clinton to try and be sure that Donald Trump didn't get elected president. Is that
literally to take government legal apparatus and illegally target and just flat out frame the incoming, the Trump campaign, and then the president-elect, and then the president.
That is an unbelievable statement you just made. I mean, we have multiple people that you're alleging in the Department of Justice of the United States and senior levels that conspired together and colluded together in order to put the resources they have them illegally in opposition against the presidential campaign and to frame the candidate, basically, in finding a way to gain an edge in defeating him. I mean, like,
exactly.
This is what they do in third world countries. They don't do this in the United States. And there's been no retribution.
The whole thing was run very much like a CIA disinformation and, coup sort of thing, which is why I think John Brennan probably had a bigger hand in it than people have recognized yet.
So is that why they're scared to death of all of this information becoming public and they don't want the president to release it, and they're talking about all the consequences of it? I mean, is that why they're going crazy?
Yeah, because there's so many of them involved, and the truth is going to lay them bare and make it plain to everybody, which is all the more reason why it needs to be disclosed sooner rather than later.
Sidney Powell,
I don't understand the delay right now other than people trying very hard to cover their careers.
Who's delaying it?
Right now, I think Rosenstein and probably FBI are delaying it.
Ray and
primarily Rosenstein, I think.
So, yet Rosenstein says he's going to get a wire and entrap basically, here's what Rosenstein said. I'm going to wear a wire and entrap the president, then go to the cabinet and say the guy's not fit to be president. Look at what he said. He's not fit. And then try to invoke the 25th Amendment?
The 25th Amendment.
Amendment and get him out, right? That's what Rosenstein said to do. And now I find out that I was kidding. Well, first of all, you don't kid about something like that. Second of all, now we find out that the people that he went to didn't think it was kidding. And they took it very seriously, and they thought he was going to act on it. That's number three. Then he meets with the president who says, it's fine. You can stay. And I tell you what galled me. I cannot get this picture out of my mind. Can I tell you what it is? I cannot get it out of my head. I was at the swearing-in ceremony for Judge Kavanaugh on Monday night at the White House. And I was part of the journalist crew, and I get to sit in the third row, right? So I'm in the third row. I'm right there, front and center. And, the justices come in, and Kavanaugh comes in, all that. But before Kavanaugh comes in, McConnell comes in. He gets an impromptu standing ovation. It was kind of neat by the people there. That was kind of fun. Then Rosenstein comes in. Now, McConnell, Graham, they come and they sit down, they get a clap. Rosenstein comes in like a triumphant warrior. Like he just met with the president and triumphed. And so he comes in and I can't get this vision out of my head because I was right there. And he comes in, he saunters in and he's like swaggering away and he goes to one end and he starts working the line, like shaking hands, like from one end to the other, like he's running a campaign on a hope line. He starts working the line from one end to the other, smiling, backslapping, shaking hands, hugging. And then he sits down. And who's in the front row? All the Bush people, right? All the RNC holdovers, right? They're all there, right there. He's like he was their conquering freaking hero. And I'm saying to myself, this rat weasel who has done everything to sink this president, comes in there like some triumphant victor because he just went on Air Force One. Why is this guy still there?
Well, I think the president has him exactly where he wants him right now, and that it's all going to work out fine. But I think we just have to trust the president to know that he knows things that we don't know. Now would not be a good time to put the department through that upheaval. We need to focus on the midterms and get everybody out to vote the way they should so we can put things in complete order.
Well, I think you're right. I've got a text question here from Ivan in Woodbridge. He says, please ask Sidney Powell, in all of this, no one ever mentions what potential role President Obama had in this cabal. Sidney, can you shed light on Obama's potential involvement in any of this?
Oh, yes, definitely. I've got several articles that address that. If he'll go to SidneyPowell.com and check into my articles on the Daily Caller, and even as far back as the New York Observer, the whole thing happened to protect Obama. I mean, the whole Clinton cover-up was to protect Obama as much as it was Hillary, because he was emailing her on that server under an alias and knew jolly well she was running an unsecure server, supposedly off the grid, that was subject to being breached and no doubt had been breached. And then also there's an article I wrote about Comey working his plan. We have to put together the memo from Susan Rice, note to self, on the day of the inauguration, where she refers back to a meeting January 6th in the Oval Office, at which Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Susan Rice, Biden, and Obama, and I think Sally Yates were there. And that's when they finalized the plan for Comey to go brief Trump on the Russia collusion narrative, just the salacious parts of the Steele dossier. All they were going to brief him on was the golden showers crap, and that gave them the hook they needed for CNN to run with the story that they knew CNN was waiting to run with. And, of course, Comey reported back to Clapper and Brennan as soon as he had that meeting with Trump. They didn't brief him on the other parts of it like they should have. Just the stuff they knew was absolutely false. Well, they knew all of it was false, but that would, get his goat that they were saying something like that about him. and that was enough to give them the news hook to launch the whole story. And of course, there are the page-stroke text messages talking about Obama wanting to know everything they were doing. I mean, I think he was into it up to his eyeballs, both on the illegal Clinton conduct and the cover-up of that, and then the whole narrative to try to frame Trump with the Russia collusion mess.
Unbelievable. This whole thing is just shocking.
As was Susan Rice, who was doing the unmaskings, and Lisa Monaco is going to find her way in there, too. She was his counterterrorism advisor, and she's in License to Lie as one of the prosecutors who was glad to commit misconduct and do anything to win.
When are you going to put all this together in, like, one document?
Yeah, in my spare time. Yeah, I'm working on it. It's going to take a while.
I know it's going to take a while, but let me ask you this. What is Jeff Sessions'
Right now,
role?
you can look at the creepsonamission.com website to get a little bit of it.
Creepsonamission.com. Go to creepsonamission.com. Sidney, where's Jeff Sessions in all this?
AWOL. Just AWOL. I mean, when he agreed at the behest of DOJ lifers to withdraw from the Russia investigation, he just signed over DOJ to Rosenstein, and the mess followed.
Unbelievable. Look, I had Rand Paul on talking about something else and about an hour ago, half hour ago, and he said, look, at the end of the day, this is the Jamal Khashoggi incident. He said there's going to be a lot of jumping up and down, but we're going to get zero change in policy. They're still going to buy the arms. We're still going to back the Saudis in the Yemeni civil war. They'll just be jumping up and down. Nothing will change. Is this ever going to see the light of day?
It better. I mean, I just don't see how the American people can have any faith in the rule of law in this country unless it is all exposed to sunlight and something is done about it.
Sidney Powell, we got to have you on every week. That's why I'm sorry I was not there in D.C. The next time you get there, I'll be sure that we can spend a lot more time with each other on the air, one-on-one in our Washington studio. And I'm sorry I had to come back this week. But look, I appreciate it. Let's go to licencetolie.com or creepsonamission.com. You can find everything Sidney Powell right there. Buy her book. You've got to read it. Best read you'll ever have. But you should especially buy it for Halloween because it's going to scare the daylights out of you. John Fredericks.
and the new paperback version of it should be in the stores any day now. It's available for pre-order everywhere books are sold. Finally got national distribution of it.
Never better.